Hey! Welcome to Sunny and Ratchet, your go-to spot for real talk and real laughs with your two favorite hosts who are spilling the tea, but not the wine.
Skies might be big, but the opinions are bigger. This is where you'll find your weekly dose of drama and magic, always served hot and slightly chaotic. I'm the one that likes to tell it like I see it.
And I'm the one who finds the silver lining, even if it's duct taped on.
We're just two women from the Midwest, one the ever optimist, and the other a realist, just trying to keep the train on the tracks.
So if you like gossip, world news, unsolicited advice, and good old-fashioned sarcasm, you're in the right spot.
This is Sunny and Ratchet. Pull up a chair and let's get into it.
Hey, I'm Sunny,
I'm Ratchet.
and we're here today to talk to you about mental health matters.
Dun dun dun.
So, mental illness and seeking help for that tends to be really prevalent in our society, the mental illness part, but because it's such a taboo subject, I think that a lot of people struggle to actually reach out and get help for it. I looked up on the CDC website some numbers. 1 in 3 high school students said that their mental health was not good most or all of the time, and they were reporting how they felt in the last 30 days. 1 in 5 adults, so a little better, 1 in 5 adults reported feelings of depression regularly. And when I looked at that disaggregated data, something I noticed is that it is definitely more common in the 18 to 34 age group, and then it kind of goes down as we get older. I also noticed that it's more common in females than males, and that when you look at it by race, it's more commonly reported by people that are Black or white, or there's also multicultural. So those were the highest reported demographics. However, I think that it is important to note that females tend to typically report these things more than males because it's a little taboo for us. It's a lot taboo for males.
Which we need to fix.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. And also, in Asian cultures and Hispanic cultures, especially the more traditional ones, it's a matter of family shame to admit that you're struggling. So there's that cultural background to really overcome. So a lot of people from that demographic, they're not going to report it at all in the first place because it's a matter of shame. On the flip side, 4 in 5 adults in the United States felt that they received social emotional support that they needed. Although, interestingly enough, another number that I found was that 1 in 7 U.S. adults receive or have received counseling or therapy. So I guess that kind of tells me that they're getting their support in other ways. And I mean, there are options besides therapy and counseling. But just an interesting number, I thought.
The only thing that I was like looking at the stats the way you were looking at them, I did find some interesting information, mostly about the men, and they are 40 times more likely to actually commit suicide. I think that has to do with the fact that, as you stated earlier, men feel like they have to be stronger, and I think as a society, we have kept this perpetual I don't know how I was trying to say this. I know I talk about generational curses a lot, but I feel like as a society, this is one of ours. Like, we have told our men to buck up, be strong, be a man, don't cry. Internalize all your feelings because they feel things the way we feel things. Like, we may be more vocal, but their mental health is just as important.
Yes. You know, what you said, though, it actually made me think of something. So every September we do a campaign of suicide awareness and mental health awareness at my school.
Sorry, one more fact. This is actually Men's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Okay.
Which I didn't know.
But I didn't know that either. I know that May is mental health awareness, like just in general, but I didn't know there was a specific, and I think that's great. It needs to be, we need to specifically pay attention to that. But another fact about suicide is the way that people tend to do that. Men typically use more violent, destructive means, as in weapons, whereas women tend to choose more quiet means like overdoses. Yes, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, men are much less likely to reach out. And when they do go, they go big.
They go big because they want to go home.
Yeah.
And that's so, I mean, I'm making a joke, and that's not funny. I apologize. But, yeah, that's crazy.
It is, and it's, and, you've raised boys. I am raising boys. And, yeah, it really hurts me. It hurts me when they hurt. And I know that, like, for my son, there have been times where he needed to be in therapy, and I did not want to force it because that's not effective. But I also knew that, like, he does have a couple of diagnoses that he's working with and working through, and I needed him to get help. 6 months. The last time I took him to therapy, it took him 6 months to get comfortable enough with the therapist to actually talk about anything real. And it was that wanting to hold it in and not feeling like he should feel these things and struggle, Yeah. Breaks my heart.
Yeah. But I really do feel like you have a very unique perspective to this whole conversation that we're having right now, being that you are in counseling, like that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've had your own issues that you've had to deal with.
Yeah. Like my mental health has been probably my biggest struggle and my greatest triumph, I think. So I guess first of all, let's go way back. I have a family history of mental illness. So my grandmother was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, became suicidal at a certain time in her life, and struggled so much that she actually eventually went on disability because her depression was such a struggle. She also had a sister who was a diagnosed schizophrenic and spent a lot of time living in mental institutions. So that's one of the things that we know about. I'm sure that there's others that didn't just pop up, but it wasn't always something that people talked about or even knew about. And then, in my family, I know that my mom went through some really hard times and she never sought out help, which made me very sad for her, And I think maybe it's because she didn't get to the point that she felt suicidal. But, I mean, honestly, being a mom and also being relocated as well to a state where she didn't know anybody and didn't have any support, and being isolated, that wasn't easy for her, and I know it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, my sister and we both had mental illnesses. I won't speak necessarily to my sisters because I feel like it's her story to tell or her private information. But for me, I was toughing it out. My mom was very important to me. And my dad, he really didn't think that counseling was like, I think he said it was something like just something that rich women did or something like that. Like, yeah, like he really diminished counseling, and we didn't do it until, my sister and I both started having some very significant issues. And I had trauma. I had trauma in my life. And so, to be honest, I was sexually assaulted as a child, and I did not tell anybody until I was like 24 or 25. So I had stuff going on that I was keeping inside as a secret. And then when I was my first year of college, I was 19, and I went to the doctor because I was not sleeping. Like, stayed up all night, didn't sleep. I was really just kind of pushing through my problems. But that's when I was first prescribed antidepressants, but nothing was really done to kind of explore what the issues were. And so several months later, I was hanging out in the apartment above my parents' garage, and we had like this intercom back and forth. And every day was just getting harder and harder. And something that I don't know if enough people realize this, that when somebody's feeling suicidal,
They don't talk. They don't talk about it.
they don't talk about it. Right. They don't talk about it. And they don't want to die. They just want the pain to stop.
Yeah.
And if you're holding this pain in that you're not telling anybody, it eats you alive. And my trauma response was different from, some, because some people really, they act out and participate in risky behaviors. But mine was to be a perfectionist and to be the good kid and to be the perfect child. So I was hiding it really well. But eventually over the summer, I did start to feel suicidal. I had started to think, how would I do it? What could I get access to do it? And there was one morning I was thinking real hard about, taking every pill I could find, because I was tired of the hurt that I wasn't talking about, that I wasn't saying, that I didn't feel like I could talk about. And my mom got on the intercom and she started singing "You Are My Sunshine." And that is what snapped me out of that. And I got on the intercom and I told Mom, it's like, I need to come here. And I told her about everything and the things I was thinking and stuff. And she was very upset to hear, about all of that. They still didn't know about stuff that was going on with my sister. So I was, feeling really alone because none of us talked about the pain we were going through. But, my mom, she, was very firm about, this is not what we're doing. This is not how we're going to deal with our problems. And she got me in therapy. The therapist I saw the first time was not that great, but it was enough to pull me out of the mindset I was in.
Mm-hmm.
And I did take antidepressants for a while, but I was ashamed of having to be on antidepressants. And I felt like I had kind of grown and gotten to a place where I could get off the antidepressants. And I did eventually after a couple of years. And that was kind of my first bout with it. Oh, you know what? I didn't even mention. Oh my God. I was a senior in high school. So first, I was a senior in high school. I started having these panic attacks that I thought were heart attacks. Like, I didn't know what it was because I would be in church in a totally calm situation. singing praise songs, feeling good, but then my heart would race, and then my breath would falter, and my fingers, they would curl, and I just didn't know what was going on. So that same doctor that had prescribed me antidepressants had also just prescribed me Xanax, which, like, it would just kind of like knock me out and I'd be asleep after that. And so it was a really difficult way to deal with anxiety. Never sent to a therapist. Just like, you're having a panic attack.
Here's a medication.
Yeah. Knock yourself out. And then when you wake up,
Deal with it. Or take another one.
Yeah. And so that wasn't necessarily a good thing. I remember when 9/11 happened. Of course, that was scary and stressful. And I ended up trying to stay calm. Ended up getting to a point where I needed to take one, and just like, I woke up the next day just like drooling. I was like, oh. But that was like early in my college career, and I was doing counseling, and I was dealing with panic attacks and depression, and all of that had, kind of led to this point where I was suicidal. And I remember my roommate in college, she was very open about it with people that I was getting counseling, and would, joke around about me going to see my crazy doctor. Yeah, no, she wasn't my friend. She was a roommate. I don't even.
She sounds like a skank. You're a skank. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Sorry.
It was not good. She did a lot of things that were very damaging to me as a person. And, I know that it was her shortcomings as a person and her own whatever, but it just kind of made my whole thing worse. And it really, so coming from where my dad didn't think that counseling was like a thing you do, keeping stuff in that had happened to me, having the people I lived with at college just talking about me like I'm crazy, like it was all very, very rough. So I came out of it for a while after, several years of medication and therapy and just working on myself. But then things kind of, I guess they went south again after I had my son. And I think that part of it was postpartum depression, but part of it was being in a relationship that was not good for me. And so again, I found myself at a point where I was on antidepressants. I eventually started therapy, trying to kind of get through all that, trying to figure out what it was, because I was very much in denial at first about the things going on in my marriage. So eventually I got divorced. I went to the YWCA and got a lot of help there. I mean, they took me from such a dark place and helped me rebuild in such a way I could never repay them for the time that I had with that organization and all the people that helped me. So I eventually came out of that, and then I wanted to get off antidepressants again, because I was like, I'm not a lifer. I'm not like my grandma. At that point, my sister was dealing with some of her issues and getting help as well. So that at least was like, it wasn't just me, my family seeking help. But I felt like, and this is really kind of terrible to say, but I was kind of like, I'm not going to be a lifer like my sister or my grandma. Like, I've got to be mentally strong. I've got to be okay. And so eventually I got off antidepressants. And then I got married again. And I thought I made better choices, but I didn't. Because I was with someone who struggled with alcohol abuse and addiction. And I thought he was over it, but shortly after we got married, it all kind of came crawling back, waved. And so that was really hard, and I dealt with it, and there was a lot of struggle. I went through the church to try to deal with our marital issues and with with all of that, trying to deal with the emotions and stuff like that. And the thing is that even though I know that the people that talked with me and my second husband, they meant well. They really meant well. But I stayed in that relationship longer than I should have. And in that marriage, a big reason that my husband at the time was doing those things was to self-medicate with the pain he was feeling. In all honesty, I think maybe we trauma bonded. Yeah. And that was not healthy at all. Yeah. Yeah. And so eventually I got out of that, but I spent too many years in an ugly mess. And now I know what it's like to be living with someone with addiction issues and that kind of thing, which helps me in my career, I guess. But it was hard. So coming out of that, my doctor wanted me to start antidepressants. I was already getting counseling. Like, I was like, obviously I need counseling. Like, I was like, I will work on myself. And if I ever get in a relationship with a man again, it's going to be for the right reasons. It's not going to be because I feel like like I'm not giving my son a real family unless I'm married, which was something I had in my head. It's not going to be because I want to identify as a wife and a mother and be whatever image that I have in my head. Like,
society sets out for women.
Yeah. And I wanted that, and that's kind of how, like, when I got married to my second husband, I was trying to be something instead of going with what is right for me, what has life handed me, and what am I going to do with that. So then I was talking to my doctor who wanted me to take antidepressants again, and I was like, I don't want to do that, and she's like, well, we talk about that, and I talked about like my first antidepressant prescription I took made me feel weird, and I lost a lot of weight, and I didn't feel like myself. And then the second time, I also still didn't, I felt kind of numb. And so my doctor, she was saying, that can happen. That I get what you're saying, but that isn't what has to happen. It's a matter of finding the right one that works for you. And she said, the way you're going to know that it's the right one is that you're not going to be able to tell the difference, but people around you will, because they'll notice that you feel better and that you're happier, but you're not going to feel like somebody different.
Is that medication actually out there?
Is it? Yeah. Yes. So this doctor, and she's still my doctor, and I just would never leave her. She is so fantastic. And I already had a great relationship, so I decided to trust her on it. And so this last time that I got on antidepressants, I finally, I got therapy and I got help, and I really kind of analyzed my roots and where I'm from and when life works and when it doesn't. And I think it was like the third medication I tried, but I found one that I feel normal. when I take it. I feel like me. I don't wake up with days where everything's wrong and I don't know why, maybe on my cycle, but but I feel like me, and I did the work with therapy to get to a place where, I mean, I am a mom. That's not going to change. And I love my son. And so that is my situation. But needing to be a wife, or that feeling that if it's just me and my son, we're not a complete family, I really had to deal with that. And so I really, some advice I give for people when they're trying to date and look for their relationships, it's like, I can't stress enough. A lot of times people get in relationships to save other people. I was doing that in my first and second marriage. But being a whole person and finding another whole person, and you two being able to stand together. And I also didn't go out dating trying to find someone to marry. I did eventually start dating again.
I know.
Yeah. For me. And, but it was different because I was like, I will not get into a relationship with the expectation that the end goal is marriage. If it's right for us, and if it happens, fantastic. And if it doesn't happen, I need to still be able to say fantastic.
I remember, because when you guys were dating, I remember you saying that you weren't going to move in together until Henry was out of the house.
That's right. I said that. I did. I honestly, so we ended up moving together. So Mr. Sonny and I had been dating a while, and we had broken up for a little bit, and we had gone back together and made the decision, like, this is real. We're going for it. And I was talking to him about my son, Speed Racer, having a lot of fears about apartment life. And I was trying to think of ways to help build his confidence. I was like, I don't know, maybe I can put him in Taekwondo or something. But he eventually, he asked me what I thought about moving in together. And it actually, it did make sense, because he and my son were close. My son did feel comfortable with him. It was honestly like magic, because I didn't introduce my son to a lot of people. I'm not sure I've ever introduced him to somebody that I didn't marry, which was interesting, because he met Speed Racer when we were just friends.
Just friends.
Yes. But I don't know. Maybe we just knew. I don't know. But anyway, it actually did work out. I wasn't going to. I knew I had made mistakes, and I actually still today, I still feel a lot of shame that it took me 3 times. I know I shouldn't. But I do.
You're just like a lot of other women. You had to learn your lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
And then you didn't learn. So they were like, okay, here's another one. Did you get it this time?
Yeah. But yeah. So we did end up getting married, which is wonderful. I love having him as a spouse. We actually have decided to become foster parents, and I have really been reliving a lot. There's several different people that talk to you, and we are currently having a home study done where every one of us in the family are kind of having to tell our life story.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we got fingerprinted. I had to talk about how many names I've had. So I had to talk about how many times I've been married, and I was embarrassed. And I've had to tell the foster care worker. so that she could do a background check. How many names I've had. So how many times I've been married, because you got to kind of tell why you've changed your name so much. And then the one with the home study, like I actually had to like discuss all the ugly things. I had to talk through past traumas I've experienced and mental health issues and physical health issues. But physical health issues, like there's just not the stigma on physical health that there is on mental health. And I say that, but it's not like the woman was judging me. Like, she works in mental health. So, like, I don't know why it's so hard to overcome.
It's a societal thing.
Yeah.
It's 100% a societal thing.
But I do think that's why, like, it's important to talk about it. And I'm trying to be better about sharing my story, because the more you hear it from other people, the more it normalizes it, and the more people will feel okay, I think, when they hear that somebody else is experiencing that same thing too. That's one of the things, honestly, becoming a school counselor. So I've worked in education, and I had been in education for about 10 years, and I just kept feeling more and more like I wanted to go the school counselor route, because I was finding that those were the things, that honestly I could relate to kids on a lot of levels, and I wanted to really be able to do something more about it, and so that's what led to becoming a school counselor, was my own issues and my own journey, and how important it was to have people intervene in my life, because I didn't just do it. My mom, when I was feeling suicidal, overcame a lot of her fears that she was navigating with her husband, who felt a certain way, and she got me help. And when I was in a situation of domestic violence, I actually had two people, because I had a doctor that had to treat my wounds, who also encouraged me to get help. But it was the second person, my lawyer, who made that referral and really actually got me connected. And then I guess the third time I was like, I've got to grow up and get some help. I had to have Speed Racer in therapy for different developmental things. And I finally was like, I really need to be an adult and recognize when I need help and get that help. I've got to be doing that for myself, instead of, I guess, waiting for someone to tell me. So I do have a therapist, and sometimes I see her regularly, and sometimes I'm going through a rough patch, and so I'll see her once or twice or 3 times. And it's more like just kind of knowing myself and having that established connection, because I hate having to rehash my life story. Yeah, it's painful, and it leaves you feeling raw. But it's so important. It's so important, I think, that we speak out and tell our stories. Like, there was something, I was talking to a friend I don't see very often, and she's the wife of one of my husband's close friends. And she started talking about her perimenopause symptoms. And even something as simple as that, I was like, wait, what? That's part of perimenopause? Because I had been experiencing those things too, and not talking about it. And it was actually a relief, because I was like just sitting on my own thinking, what is wrong with me? And then I was like, oh, I guess it helps to know other people experience it, and it helps to normalize these experiences we have, I think.
I'm so glad I'll never do that. I've been all since 27. I had everything ripped out then.
Oh, man. Well, congratulations.
I don't think the rest of it went out like last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't had a period since I was 27.
Oh, gosh. Lucky you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm perimenopausal. It's fantastic.
I've had an incredibly different story than you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I cannot, even just recently, I had tried to go to therapy, and I swear this dude was too engrossed on something else that he couldn't even look me in the eye. I never went back to him. I was like, you know that this is okay. This is why I've had a problem with therapy because of this. Like I've had I remember crying one day in another office. This was like, I don't know, 12 years ago or so. I was just crying. And she looked so shocked. Like, oh my God, do I need to call your ambulance? Picking up my crap and I'm walking out the door. No, bitch, I'll figure this out myself.
Oh.
So I'm glad that you've gotten it. I'm not saying therapy is a bad thing. I'm just saying it's obviously not for me.
Well, I think that a lot of people do have these negative experiences, and it really is about connecting with a person. Like, for me, when I was getting my master's, one of the things that I was told is that when you're counseling someone, never take it personally if they don't feel like they're connecting with you, and also have the courage to tell someone when you don't feel like you're connecting. Say, I don't think this is working, because that bond is important for benefit, and to do your best to refer them to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it is like making friends, right? Like, it is.
Friends and be like, guess what?
No, but here's the thing that I'm saying. Some people you talk to and it's like, oh, I don't enjoy this. This is not a person I'm going to reveal my, more personal things to.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have that feeling with a counselor as well. And sometimes it's because the counselor is not good at their job. And sometimes it's because y'all don't vibe,
I probably have a chip on my shoulder too.
Yeah, that's fair. A lot of people do. Yeah.
So how, as a counselor, like with your kids and stuff, when they are referred to you and they sit in your office, how do you get them to open up?
Oh, so I just get to know them. I talk to them. Sometimes we'll play a game if they're particularly nervous. I have a deck of would you rather cards. It's definitely, you don't just jump right into things,
Maybe that's why I scared that one counselor.
Well, I don't know. No, that counselor should be prepared. Like, because I have kids that come in my office and I don't know them from, who else. Like, obviously, once they come in and they're super upset, I'm like, make a point of knowing their name. And, when I see them walking through the halls, tell them hello by name and let them feel seen, But, yeah, if a kid wants to just come in and unload, and I've had that, I let them do that. And, I do my best to let them set the pace sometimes, because so there are some things, like I'm trained in threat assessment. And so when we have anything like that going on at school, I've got to go and talk to the kid and I have to get down to business,
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously it takes a quick, more, I have to set the pace more and be more directive with that. And so that can be really, it can be a struggle to connect quickly, but I think a lot of times because the kids are scared out of their minds, they'll, they're desperate for somebody to just hear what they were thinking, and understand their side of the story. So I guess that helps. But, like I said, speed racer, I took him to counseling. I've had him go, we've had about 3 different periods in his life where I've needed him to work through something.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time, 6 months, like, because she would talk to him about stuff he was interested in, and he could like open up on that level. Like, he loved talking at that time about his hamsters and about cooking and that kind of thing. And then she'd try to ease into the talking about other stuff. Nope. He would shut down. And so she'd go back to, okay, it's okay, and just go back to, and sometimes it does take a lot of work with people that have a lot of trauma in relation with seeing a therapist or a lot of fears about it. There's got to be a lot of relationship building and a lot of trust gained.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money to be sitting there trying to build a relationship with somebody that I won't see again after I figure this shit out.
But why won't you?
Because it's a lot of money. It's honestly just a lot of money. Like, our insurance will pay for 15 sessions. Okay. So that's like, what, 15 weeks, maybe 30 weeks? And then you still have a copay there, and then you're responsible for the rest. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of an issue too, because I think our health insurance needs to do better in providing those services. And there's been times where it hasn't been paid for. I do know that there's a lot of counselors out there that'll try to work with you with private pay and stuff and accept lesser fees and things like that. At one point while we were figuring out our insurance, at the office I was at, they would see us for $25 a session, and that's what they were accepting as private pay. Yeah, crazy, right? Like,
yes.
We didn't have to do that. And, I think that it's really kind of sad that that physical health providers can make so much money, and then you have mental health providers that, make so little and accept.
Is that really like such a discrepancy there?
Yeah, because they can, through insurance, if insurance will pay it, they can make, $150 or more per session. And so, yeah, and that goes to, and it's not like the therapist just takes that home. That goes towards their building and their facilities and that kind of thing, insurance, and yes, all of that. And then they receive some of that pay. So then to take an hour of their time and do $25, I doubt a therapist actually sees that money, because it's probably just goes towards their expenses to run their practice.
Yeah, we have a lot to fix in this country.
Yeah.
This is a sad topic. I really do feel sad. I mean, like, you've had your issues, I had my issues, and we just stated facts that, most Americans have had issues.
Well, yeah, and it is a sad topic, and especially when it comes to money, that's a hard thing. But I also feel like, especially when I'm talking to kids that are going through really, really hard things. Like, I've had some kids that come to me and they have experienced sexual trauma when they were younger. And I, when I'm able to tell them it's been a long journey, but you can get there. I've gotten there, you can too. It gives them hope that this doesn't have to be the mess it is currently. Because I didn't know, when I got to the point that I felt suicidal, I didn't see a future. I didn't see ever not being in pain. Like, I couldn't be alone without my thoughts running away. At one point, I had such horrible nightmares all the time about my trauma as a child that I was put on medication to help me sleep without dreaming, sleep so deeply I wouldn't dream, because I would wake up screaming in the night and fists flying, and it was not good. And it's really, really hard to live with that. But I am here on the other side, not having nightmares, not my big trigger, and I don't know why, but being in grocery stores and grocery shopping would be the biggest set off for panic attacks for me.
It just pisses me off.
I don't like it. I think it gets me kind of stressed out anyways. Like I'm the biggest fan of having groceries delivered now because I don't even have to deal with that anymore. Like occasionally I tried going to the grocery store and there was one time I didn't know where to find Italian sausage because there's different places where meats are in the grocery store. And I called my husband and I was just like, I just need you to help me. I need to talk through this. Need to take some deep breaths because I cannot find the Italian sausage. And I am so stressed out. And I just need a minute. And there was this sweet lady that was nearby that kind of heard me. And she came over and she said, hey, I can tell you where the Italian sausage is. I was like, thank you so much. And she was so understanding. But it's just, I don't know, grocery stores really set me off and trigger me. And I don't know why, you know.
Grocery stores, malls, public events. Unless it's a music festival. I don't know why. Like, because I'm just bad with the music. But otherwise, I don't like being in crowds. I don't like being around people. People are loud and rude. And then they start bumping into me and I just want to push them right back. So it's just best if I don't.
You know, I hear you on that, actually. I don't like crowded places. And I think maybe the reason that I experience so much stress in grocery stores is like, you have to have food, right? Like, you have to have food. So that's the time where I have to push myself.
Walmart needs to go back to the 24 hours. It's been 3 freaking years. Let me
Really?
go to the store at 3 o'clock in the morning to get my goddamn milk, please.
I didn't. I didn't know that they're not open in the middle of the night anymore.
Not since COVID.
Oh, wow. And you like to go at 3 in the morning?
Yeah, if I'm awake. Yeah, most definitely. Let me get in there and get out and there's nobody there.
I mean, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I don't know. But I think that, you know, a lot of people too, like, so I do a lot of groups at school. And one of the things we talk about with kids that experience like trauma or chronic stress, or they've experienced trauma and they're trying to figure out how to kind of navigate the world, you know, different ways to cope. And I don't know if people appreciate how much like out there that you can do. Like, therapy is great. I actually personally feel like anytime you feel like so therapy, you can talk to somebody and build a relationship and be close to them and talk about things without worrying how it's going to affect other people. Because for me, I'm notorious about not telling my mother things because I know that she'll hurt that I'm hurting.
Mm-hmm.
Therapists, that's not an issue.
Unless you're that one therapist up there on Memorial.
Well, can't speak about that person. But for me, it's like having that person and they can listen and, you know, they can empathize, but they're neutral.
Yeah.
And that is really helpful for me to have somewhere to kind of voice these things and work through these things. And they're things that I honestly can't work out with my family until I work it out with somebody else first. And I don't know, I guess I'm the queen of holding it in. And so for me, you know, that's something I've explained to parents sometimes too, that's helped give them some peace of mind when they have a child that is interested in doing counseling. Explaining, because, you know, you have parents and they feel so close to their kids. And, you know, I just have to tell them, like, look, that is wonderful and still true. It is. But sometimes when people are really close with a parent, it's hard to talk to them because it's hard to put them in that pain. And they need to process with somebody that's not going to hurt as bad as you're going to hurt. Maybe it'll help them get there and tell you. But, you know, I have worked on myself to be able to communicate with my mom better. Because I know there were, like, one time she was talking to me about it being so hard to watch me and know that I'm hurting, but I just wouldn't tell her, and she would just wish I would just tell her. And it was never that I thought she wouldn't care. It was never that I thought she was a bad parent. It was I couldn't bear to cause her pain. And so it was too hard for me to speak it out.
Yeah. So you guys are going to meet Miss Elaine in a couple weeks, and you'll understand. You'll understand everything that she is saying right now, because Miss Elaine is an amazing woman.
She is so wonderful. So wonderful. You know, she has a Ratchet side, though.
I believe it.
She does. She does. We still laugh and joke about the time she gave one of my exes the double fingers. They were trying to come at me, and she was so tired of it. She was like, she's like, no, F you, F you. I was like, oh my gosh. And then this person called my dad to tell on her. And my dad was like, well, that doesn't sound like Elaine. But we got home and we told him, and he was like, wow. It's that fierce loyalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is a sweet lady. Sweet, sweet lady. If you pissed her off, you have earned it. So,
Yeah. I don't know. I do think that, and I've said it before, and women are definitely more likely to talk than men. So we need to teach our boys currently that it's okay. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. It's okay to not know what to do, to feel overwhelmed. The world is not on your shoulders. You can share that burden.
yes.
And I think we as mothers definitely need to work on that with our current children, because it's been a generational thing for eons, that men are supposed to be these strong, brooding individuals who have everything together. And being a single mom, that's flipping hard. That is flipping hard. And to have no one to cry to, we need to do better.
Yeah, everything you just said. Amen, sister. But I do think we're getting better. We're moving in the right direction. And I really, truly, in my heart, I hope we keep that up.
Yeah.
So
I did want to state, if you are experiencing situations where you feel like there's nowhere to go, I've recently learned about 211, and they are very helpful. And they'll even transfer you across state lines to get the help that you need. Well, not transfer you physically, but they'll transfer calls. So 211 is a great place to go.
yeah, great for resources. And I know that I've had even students who have struggled with suicidal thoughts. And for them, being able to dial 988 has also been extremely helpful.
It was 988. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Well, 211 is also really good. 211 is really great for resources for anyone that's struggling just in their life. And then 988 is specifically for mental health, especially for people in crisis with their mental health. You can call 988, you can text 988, and you can also go to their website, which I didn't write down, but I mean, if you Google 988, you'll find it. And there's so much there.
It may be hopeless, but it's really not. That's the best advice to have.
That was one of the strongest moments for me when I was at the YWCA and I was talking to a therapist, and he asked me if I had hope. And I thought about it, but then I said yes. And he said, good, because that's the one thing you have to have.
Yeah.
Have to have hope. Well, thank you guys for coming and listening to us today talk about some pretty deeply personal topics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just know that there's help out there, and we love you guys. We love each other too. In a
platonic way, because we're married to men.
Yes. But
soul sisters.
Yeah. So
here's the screaming into the void.
here's this screaming into the void.